Hello, I'm Dalton Delan. I'm a columnist for the Berkshire Eagle, and this is Eagle Reels, where we take you beyond the news. My guest today, Melissa Canavan, Executive Director of the Berkshire Immigrant Center. Welcome, Melissa.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Now, Melissa, your parents were immigrants from Mexico. I know you have an arts background, but was that any factor in your coming to this job?
It's what connected me to the work, having parents who are immigrants, like I'm experiencing the first generation, experience. And I think it allows me to understand to a degree what some of our clients are experiencing. And I think it allows me to better understand my staff as well as to what they need in order to make sure they're doing their best work.
Thank you. Melissa, tell us a little bit about the situation in the Berkshires and what the center is trying to do.
So, as it relates to Berkshire County, where I think it's normal for us to see new individuals and families come to this region. It's not necessarily new. I think we're starting to see that the larger demographic, for us are immigrants. And I think it's really important the work that many agencies are doing to support the immigrants in this region because, in a lot of ways, they're going to be filling in the work gaps, and they have been. And I think it's just important to understand that we have, in order to not just accommodate, but to accept the fact that, we are made up of a community of immigrants, it's really important for us to adapt and evolve and be considerate on how we're being inclusive of people of different languages, backgrounds, experiences.
Since you bring that up, I know that the Berkshire Immigrant Center was actually founded by the Jewish Federation of the Berkshires a quarter century ago. And I thought, what an interesting and timely thing, immigrants helping immigrants and perhaps renewed discrimination against both Jews and Latinos in what's going on in the world recently. Any thoughts about these commonalities of immigrants in the nation of immigrants?
I just think that what happens is like a rhetoric across the nation occurs, and depending on the sources that you get your information from, I think it just sways how people view just anybody who's different. It's not even just immigrants, it's anybody who's different. And I think that's the problem, is that there isn't enough understanding for certain individuals about who these people are. At the end of the day, I often say, immigrants want the same thing as we do. And they're willing to work hard, and I think people sometimes forget that not everybody's case has to do with their escaping, their countries for whatever reason. It definitely is a large amount of people, but I do think that, some people come with education, some people come with job experience, so many elements that really just talk to the human aspect. So I think that what gets lost in translation is this idea that, that we're really similar to one another, and the way we want to support our communities is really similar. The number of people in Berkshire County that are working together in different capacities just to, move missions forward, to move businesses forward, really all lie within the same foundation.
Melissa, I know there are a number of foundations that do help immigrants in Massachusetts. Yours focuses a lot, I know, on legal advice and help. The center helped almost 900 individuals last year. The state had 20,000 immigrants. Are there gaps? What do you feel about what you can do, what you'd like to do?
A huge gap as it relates to our work, since we are focused on the legal service ends of things is that, this region only has one immigration attorney, like in Berkshire County. And so the gap is that there's just such a high demand and we need more attorneys because there's certain, cases that require representation in court. And, we need the demand in general across the state is so high. So like, even if we were to, we do tap into our resources and connections with other attorneys across the state. But I think, it's just hard because there's so many people seeking the need. And at least for us, because we're directly, within Berkshire County, we're able to provide information and filing forms for immigration benefits and referrals to other services that, our clients might need that aren't related to the legal needs, but rather housing or food insecurity. And then we also provide citizenship classes. So I think for us, we're able to do a lot of this because we are accredited by the Department of Justice. So it's not like anybody can just take on the legal component, but that's the gap right now is that we have 2 caseworkers that are on staff, one that's a volunteer, and we're hoping to hire another caseworker. So anybody interested in doing that kind of work, there is a opening right now for us. But even then, I think the way we are thinking as an organization, the conversations I'm having with my board has to think about, okay, within our mission, what are other gaps? And so those are the conversations we're having right now and trying to analyze how we can do a better job as well as it relates to what we do.
Melissa, I know you haven't been there for many years, but I have a friend who is an attorney in the Mid-Atlantic, and he represents immigrants. And he has told me in no uncertain terms that under the previous presidential administration, that the enormous number of federal judges who were appointed are much harder for him to succeed in cases for immigrants than previously. As I say, I know you don't have that history, but from your counsel, are you hearing this also?
My caseworkers, I feel are hearing some of it as it relates to just helping the individuals that we're helping understand what the turnaround time looks like, what to anticipate, and what they can expect. I think part of it is being realistic and making sure we're helping our clients navigate the complexities, so I think there involves a degree of transparency so that, they know what what they're walking into essentially. But because our caseworkers, they're partially accredited, so that means they can't represent people in court. So they're not physically in the courts. So I can't speak completely to it, but I do know that we're tracking that kind of information so we can just better equip our clients.
The center shares in a major grant from Massachusetts to help with some perhaps the kind of granular needs that people wouldn't think about, things that maybe for some of us are easier, but to realize that something like, are you being compensated for the time if you're going to take a legal clinic, that you need childcare, or you mentioned some of the other needs. What do you think we should be thinking about in terms of holistically what's needed, and how's the center doing? How could we help? How are you doing financially? This grant, I know, is only one thing. All nonprofits, I have a long history with nonprofits, struggle. What's your situation? How could we help?
Yeah, well, I think to start off with the grant that we received, what we wanted to utilize this money for is really to address the pressing need for immigration-related legal services in Berkshire County. But pre-pandemic, we used to offer more clinics, which allowed clients to be able to connect to attorneys, whether it's immigration attorneys or maybe other types of attorneys they might need help for other needs. But we're hoping that this can kind of relaunch that ability to be within our community, because the idea is also to offer clinics across the county so that we can, address accessibility. And we have some funding that we allocated from this grant for transportation. So, because we're signing people up for these, so they're appointment based, we're going to be able to see how, who needs some sort of transportation, and we'll figure it out from there in terms of what resource, because we also know that transportation in the Berkshires is not necessarily reliable or available. But I think generally, the organization is doing well. I feel like since I started, which was roughly 6 months ago, what I've come to realize is we became a nonprofit 2 years ago. And prior to that, we were fiscally sponsored. So essentially, we're growing into our own organization right now, which is wonderful because there's just so much opportunity ahead. And it's an exciting time for BIC because we can grow in the direction that makes most sense for us and isn't dictated by somebody else's budget or somebody else's, ideas. We really kind of, we have ownership over that. And I think for me, building a foundation for BIC is the most important. I know there's a bunch of ideas that we're throwing around here and there, but I want to ensure that we have all the basics in place so that way we can really just take off once we have the opportunity to do that. So, I think in general, BIC's in a great place right now. And I think a lot of us are excited about what's to come.
Well, as we take this, so we're towards the end of the year, and that's always, again, in nonprofits I've been associated with, a major time for fundraising. Is it for you? And what are you doing to guarantee that you're in that place you want to be next year?
Yeah, so this is definitely the time for us for that year-end giving. So we appreciate any, support that could look like, $10. It goes a long way. And if you have more in your budget, it really helps us to provide our free citizenship classes that we offer, our low-cost appointments. Because often, if you're going to see an attorney, those fees can be upwards of $2,000. And for us, an initial consultation or appointment is at $40. And then, as we add up for application fees and things like that, the cost can go up. But even then, where we offer support where we can, and we don't turn away people just because financially they can't, afford it. We want to make sure we can do our part, and the way everybody else can help is by helping, donate this year, so we can walk into next year with these clinics, in place with exciting new volunteer opportunities to really make the most out of how we help our clients.
Melissa, whether it is to give or it's to get help or just to look into the center more or to find other ways to interact with you, what's the best way for viewers to reach the center?
Yeah, so obviously our website's a good starting point if you want to look at what the specific services we provide. But, you can always email our info@berkshireic.org email. You can always give us a call, and we can connect you to the appropriate person. Or if you have general, what I like to say, if you have general interest in supporting the immigrant community, we're also happy to connect you with the appropriate organization to do so. So if you specifically are passionate about maybe hosting an immigrant family, we can make sure we put you in touch with the right organization or person, and so on. So I think, don't hesitate to ask questions or inquire. We might not be able to promise, for example, a specific type of maybe internship opportunity, but it doesn't matter, because it helps. Any information I get from interested people, it helps me figure out, okay, what type of opportunities should we be thinking about offering in the future, and how our community can better connect and help us achieve our mission.
Thank you, Melissa. A couple of closing questions. So in this 6 months plus, shifting from arts into this very need, not that arts aren't needed, but this is very substantial, fundamental kind of work that you're doing. There's no maybe about it. Perhaps people think that's true of the arts. Some of us might disagree, but I think in what you're doing now, it's obviously essential work. What has surprised you in the time you've been in this role?
I think how integrated a lot of the social service agencies are within Berkshire County. I already knew that, there's over 1,000 nonprofits, and I knew how we collaborate. But I think with social service agencies, there's a different layer, almost like a deeper layer, in order to really help our community in meaningful ways. And I think that's really beautiful, because I know we can rely on each other. I know a lot of my connections that I actually had already made within the arts world, I was able to take into this role fairly quickly. People would mention, "Oh, do you know so-and-so?" And I'd be like, "Actually, I do." So I think what's great is how interconnected and how giving this community is. I think that it's not a surprise per se, but it's just a reminder, at every corner, the number of individuals and organizations who are willing to just go above and beyond is pretty awesome, and very unique to this region. When we had this one group, they were commenting on how organized and coordinated we were as it related to, the shelters that are established right now in the Berkshires, and that they'd never seen other towns, within the state come together in this way. So I think that really is something to be proud of as a county.
That's terrific to hear. So finally, you obviously came to make a difference. You are making a difference. But since you've been there, are you more hopeful than when you began?
I think so. I think I was always hopeful in the sense of BIC has a really strong team, board, staff, and volunteers who really are committed to the work, the mission, and just the connection. Whether they're immigrants themselves, first generation, or just know of people in their lives, that are so deserving of being a part of, what makes the United States so special. And I think the hope that I carry forward is just more or less on what the possibilities BIC has, to offer. And I think with time, and we're gonna see some stuff that maybe this county is just starting to embark on in general. I think there are several other organizations too. The way they're starting to evolve their thinking, being considerate about who they're hiring, bilingual staff, offering translated materials. I think we're really seeing a consideration of who is here. Of course, we have to continue to push. Advocacy is really important to make sure everyone has what they need at different levels. And but there's a lot of good people that are putting in strong work.
Melissa Canavan, thank you for taking time from this critical work you're doing to join us today. Appreciate it. Executive Director of the Berkshire Immigrant Center. Viewers, I believe that's berkshiric.org. And viewers, if you're already subscribers to the Berkshire Eagle, thank you for that. If you're not yet a subscriber, please consider becoming so. It's how you keep local journalism and stories and information such as you're hearing right now alive in America. I'm Dalton Delan. See you next time in Eagle Reels and the pages of the Berkshire Eagle.